The failure of Trump to convince Putin to stop the war left everyone asking the same question. What does he actually want? Not just in vague diplomatic terms, but in hard strategic currency. The meeting ended with no ceasefire, no concessions, and no clarity. Just more delay. And behind that delay is a brutal truth. Putin's war isn't about peace, it's about power. And the battlefield isn't just Ukraine, it's the entire NATO perimeter. What Putin wants is not a patch of land. He wants a rupture in the Western security architecture. He wants NATO rolled back, not just from Ukraine, but from the geography that once belonged to Moscow's sphere. The war is a tool to achieve that rupture. Every missile, every trench, every stalled negotiation is part of a larger campaign to force the West to admit that its post-Cold War expansion was a mistake. Ukraine is the pressure point, not because it's militarily threatening, but because it's geopolitically symbolic. A NATO-aligned Ukraine would mean that Russia's buffer is gone, that Western missiles could sit minutes from Moscow, that the ideological firewall between liberal democracy and Russian authoritarianism has collapsed. For Putin, that's not just unacceptable, it's existential. And now that threat isn't theoretical. NATO defense equipment is already inside Ukraine. Patriot missile systems, counter-battery radars, anti-tank weapons, and surveillance drones, all coordinated under NATO's new prioritized Ukraine requirements. They are battlefield assets, delivered regularly, validated by NATO command, and tailored to Ukraine's operational needs. The Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, and others are funding packages worth hundreds of millions of dollars sourced largely from US stockpiles. The result? NATO's military footprint is now functionally embedded in Ukraine's defense grid. For Putin, this is the nightmare scenario. NATO may not have boots on the ground, but its weapons are firing across the front. Its radars are tracking Russian artillery. Its air defense systems are intercepting Russian missiles. The war has reached Russia's doorstep, not through invasion, but through proximity. The buffer is gone. The firewall is breached. This is why the war continues. The West offers ceasefires, Ukraine offers neutrality, but Putin doesn't want neutrality. He wants irrelevance. He wants Ukraine to be permanently excluded from NATO. He wants the geography of Eastern Europe to reflect Moscow's dominance, not Brussels' influence. And he wants the West to concede, even implicitly, that Russia has the right to dictate the strategic orientation of its neighbors. Crimea and Donbass are part of this logic. They are not just territories, they are wedges. Holding them means keeping Ukraine fractured, unstable, and strategically paralyzed. It means ensuring that NATO can never fully integrate Ukraine because the country itself remains contested. And it sends a message to Moldova, Georgia, and even the Baltics: your sovereignty is conditional. Your Western aspirations are negotiable. But the West can't afford to concede that geography. If NATO backs down, it loses credibility. If Ukraine is forced into neutrality under pressure, it proves that aggression works. And if Russia's territorial seizures are legitimized, it sets a precedent that borders are flexible, if you have the firepower to bend them. From Putin's perspective, this war is about rescoring strategic depth, not just in kilometers, but in influence. He wants a buffer zone, not just physically, but ideologically. He wants to push NATO back to its pre-1997 lines. He wants to erase the gains made by countries that chose the West over Moscow. And he wants to ensure that no future government in Kyiv can ever pivot toward NATO without triggering war. That's why the war continues. The West wants stability. Ukraine wants sovereignty. Putin wants submission. Not just from Kyiv, but from Washington, Berlin, and Brussels. He wants the map of Europe to reflect Russian primacy. He wants NATO to flinch, and he wants history to record that Russia was not contained, but reasserted. Until those ambitions are either fulfilled or decisively crushed, the war will remain locked in escalation. Because for Putin, peace without strategic victory is just another form of defeat. And geography, in his calculus, is not just terrain, it's destiny.